So I've spoken about this before, how you might set out to do something and then something else presents itself to be done, and so whatever it was you're intending on doing doesn't get done. And here's an example. The other day I went right through here with the brush cutter and cut all of this throughout this whole garden area in preparation for starting to reattach the garden shed posts. As you can see, when the storm hit, it's pushed them over and busted out the framing that was in here. So it's a matter of putting those top rails back on. All the timber's here, including the busted bits, some of which can be salvaged as long as it's more than 2.4 meters long, or alternatively used as uprights, so studs. But then this happened. The Ride On mower busted a belt. Thinking that it was just fatigue, I replaced the belt because I had a spare, luckily. I need to find that. Let's just sit this down. So thinking it was just fatigue, because it's been on there for probably a year and it gets a bit of a hiding in some of the long grass. I replaced the belt only to find, in fact, that when we restarted and tried to engage, there was some smoke coming from it, so obviously there was some issue other than that. And so I took off the deck and found that the hubs weren't moving as freely as they should. I'll show you one of the hubs. These are the two hubs, and as you can see they're different colours, which means that at some stage one of them has been replaced. Now I think this is the newer one, and it's actually pretty good. It spins freely enough without too much noise in the bearing. But this one, which is the older one, has a rumble in the bearing and a little bit of movement in the bearing itself. And I think that when loaded, it was pulling over, binding and causing the belt to burn. So I've got two new hubs. We'll put them back on. So in essence this is the same as taking it apart, except it's going in reverse because I'm putting it back together again. Let's see how we go. Oh, incidentally, this is the blades, or one of the blades, and you can see that these are what are called swing away blades, but they've had a bit of a hiding, as you can see, probably hitting either a stone or a tree stump or a block of wood. And the reason they swing away is that when they strike something, they swing back out of the way rather than just bending this central bar. I have new blades for it. This is the hub assembly. These bolts are a 13. This one is a 16. And the top one's 22. This comes in from underneath. So you can see there's a bracket here that actually holds that in place too, so it doesn't turn. I'll fasten that up. Oh, g'day mate, how you going? Yeah, good, thank you. Oh, it busted a belt. So we got disturbed, the neighbour popped over to say g'day. But let's just get this second one in. Looks like we might get some bad weather. Let's try and get all this together. A fair bit of wind blowing up, so it might happen sooner rather than later. So these are the blades. Let's tackle the damaged one first, or the most damaged one. Yeah, they're actually a 9/16, not a metric at all. The instructions are not super clear. Have a look at this. Seems to be a whole host of ways of doing it with the washer between the blade and the holder. So that's how we'll put it together. When it came apart, it actually wasn't the case. The washer on here was in the washer on this end was on the top, and on this side was on the bottom, as you can see the mark where the washer was. But I'm going to put the washer underneath in both cases. Now this is a nylock nut, so it shouldn't come undone. So the washer is in there on both. So let's do both and then do them up. So in this case the washers are on the bottom of each. So let's flip it over and we'll put the blades on. So now we have to flip it, put the pulleys back on. So we'll slip the belt on, and because this has a grease nipple here, that cap is going to bind slightly, so we might just pop a couple of washers underneath there to just hold that up a fraction. Doesn't need to be much, just enough. Now this has to go around here, because this is the drive tensioner. Around here. Around here. And then back around through there. No. Back around through there, that way. And the last two are these two here, so that pin there has to go through there, and the same on the other side. So we got it all back together again, and all of those pins on. Let's start her up and see if she goes for a start.